right, welcome everybody to Boo's Hour. Today we've got on a special guest, and I'll be introducing her in just a moment here. What I wanted to mention to everybody, so this has been a long time coming. I'm not a web developer, and even with templates, this still took me a little bit, but I finally got our website to a point where I'll actually start sharing it with folks. So there's DarylandBoo.com. You go on there, there's actually a newsletter that myself and Daryl send out to all of our contacts here in local to British Columbia mainly. And that newsletter is a weekly newsletter. It comes out on Mondays along with our video weekly update. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn that newsletter into something everybody can have access to. You just head over to DarylandBoo.com and you can sign up for that newsletter there. Also, the actual content of the newsletter is saved as posts on there as well. So archive is on there. If you just want to follow the website and visit it occasionally, that's totally fine too. But if you want to get that newsletter just kind of dropped into your inbox every single Monday, then go ahead and sign up on the page. What I'm also going to mention as well, just got this going last week, was podcasting. So all of the live streams and the videos that we do, as we start to see people head back into the office. I've had a number of conversations with folks that have started to head back into the office now. People are actually in the car and commuting. For those folks that like to listen to things, the video content, I just rip down the MP3 and then I upload that to the podcast host, and that appears on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify Podcasts as well. And then just a reminder for folks, you're watching this via YouTube. If you're looking down right around here and there's a subscribe button that's red, you actually want to click that so it turns gray. You're subscribed. There's a little bell for notifications as well. If you turn that on, then you get the notifications when I go live like this. So I'd encourage everybody to do that. And then otherwise, today, I've got Tanya Janca that's going to join me. Tanya has a company that she's founded herself called SheHacksPurple. And she's somebody that I've noticed through B-Side, so I've seen her present a couple times through there. So we'll talk through a few things, but a few folks have already mentioned that they have questions for her, so I would encourage you to use the chat inside of the YouTube, throw up your questions on there, and we'll bring them up as we chat through here. I'm sure Tanya will enjoy talking to folks through there. So without further ado, here is Tanya. Tanya, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
Very good. Thank you for coming on.
I love your intro, and especially the subscribe buttons right here. That's so smart. I'm totally stealing that. That was brilliant.
I'm trying to think of like different ways to remind people to subscribe. And I realized too that folks aren't into subscribing to YouTube and getting a feed on YouTube. So then I thought, well, how else are people going to consume this? Okay, there's a website and there's the audio and whatnot. But I love seeing the YouTube subscriber count go up, so I would encourage everybody to subscribe, even if I'm the only subscriber. Even if I'm the only subscription that they have.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have
that
a
makes sense. I do have a YouTube channel, and it is just youtube.com/SheHacksPurple.
Okay.
And actually, I just looked at my analytics yesterday for the first time. So I set it up months ago. And then when you start your own company, like you just work day and night and you're so excited, right? And so one of my staff was like, hey, let's look at it. And it turns out that basically, so we have a bunch of subscribers, but the people, like 80% or 90% of our views are actually people not coming as subscribers. And he's like, what if you ask people to ever press, because I never ask people to press the subscribe button. He's like, what if you asked people or suggested it? I'm like, oh, that's a great idea.
Oh, exactly. Let me pull that up actually. So youtube.com/SheHacksPurple.
Yeah, that's me.
There you go. Look at that. You get 1,650 views without even trying. I'm here like peddling all my different techniques for trying to get people to subscribe. That's awesome.
I've tried to get people to watch, but it just didn't occur to me to say, press the subscribe button. So we released something last night, and then it actually, like at the end, I'm like, could you please subscribe? So we'll see if that works.
Yeah. Have you, so sorry, did you track that then after you actually started mentioning it?
No, that's smart. But we uploaded that like just literally, I guess you could see 21 hours ago. So not that long ago.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So you got some, so I like that you do these AMAs. Like I joined one, you did it via Twitch, the one I joined.
Mm-hmm.
So it's pretty cool. Like, and you have some really interactive audience, which is neat.
Yes. I find that the Ask Me Anythings are really fun for me because I get to know what people actually want to know. Like whenever I give a talk, so I love public speaking, but I find question period the funnest part. And then after, usually some people will kind of hang out and then they'll have all these super interesting questions. I'm like, oh, you're doing that? That's so cool. Have you tried this? And I find like, I love hearing what other people are doing or like what problems they're facing. I'm like, yeah, I could totally help. I'm one of those people where if I'm at work and I can help with something, I'm like, yes, I'm awesome.
That is totally cool. And it looks like you've uploaded some of your talks here. You got one from AppSec and Victoria.
Oh yeah, I have so I actually have a playlist that's where everyone else has uploaded my talks. So if you look at playlists and then there's Tanya Talks Tech, I think there's quite a few like interviews and yeah, that's a keynote I did where it was a fireside chat.
Yeah. Go for like a real one. You went for the painting.
I know I have a real fireplace, but I didn't want to drag my computer, my webcam and everything. And also I made some videos recently in front of the fire.
Yeah.
It got really warm.
Okay.
Because like you spend so much time, you set up these lights are warm, the fire is warm, this is warm, that's warm. And after shooting a few videos, I'm just like,
yeah, I almost need to get one of the fake fires going.
Yeah, I downloaded a virtual background of a fire, but it looks like I'm surrounded by fire. And I have to say, like, if I go to a board meeting, I feel like I should use that as my
background.
I have a board meeting next week so I'm on the board for some startups and some nonprofit-y things. And so that might be funny to be like, whoa, let's have the board meeting. They'll probably all laugh at me.
You would really assert yourself, I'm sure, coming in with a fire background. So maybe we can talk through your background and up to the point maybe where I started noticing you. But have you been in technology for a long time then, since early childhood?
Yeah. So most of my uncles are computer scientists and both of my aunts are computer scientists, and my dad is a technologist and my mom's a chemist mathematician. So there was a lot of tech. Yeah. And so so I'm older than I look. I'm in my 40s. A lot of people get confused about that. And so they're like, oh, so you started like, and you had internet at home? I'm like, no, internet didn't exist. But like I had this uncle that was super, super into exposing us, and he made us a computer. And so we were one of the first people to have a computer at home, and he wrote programs to get it to talk to us and stuff. And so I started learning to code as a teenager. And then as soon as I was 18, I got a job at a tech company, and then I studied computer science. And then and even my high school let us program. I had 3 years of programming before I even got to college, which even now a lot of people don't have. I feel like I had like every single opportunity to get into coding. And so, and like all the encouragement when I told my family, so I got accepted to like 8 different programs, but I think I want to take computer science. All of them were like, yeah, we know.
Cool. So was it in high school, was that C then?
It was C and Pascal. So first we learned Pascal, then C, then C++. Nice. And I had the coolest teacher, Mr. Ferguson. So he was like as nerdy as I am now. So excited. And he let us write. He's like, well, what do you like to do? And I'm like, oh, I play guitar. And he's like, why don't you make a how to play guitar program? And so we learned how to like record sounds onto the computer. We learned how to draw like put your baby finger here, do this, and like all the things. And so then he had us write this math program to test all the grade 12 math students. So they all had the same like formula that they were being tested on, but we would use different numbers because we're using computers, so that then we could give the right result. And then me and my friend made it beep really loudly and show LLL for loser if you failed. And he's like, okay, so I see how you're trying to be encouraging. I'm like, but then their peers will see that they failed and they'll study harder. They're like, okay, so lots of lessons there.
Yeah, oh, totally. That's funny because I have this guitar in the background, and you probably don't watch our Monday shows, but for everybody who does follow it, the 3 people that do, the running joke is that myself and Daryl, who's on the Monday shows with me, we both have guitars that we don't know how to play. And
really?
yeah, and so my father-in-law is actually a great musician, and as is my brother-in-law. And so he's been doing virtual lessons. He teaches music, and he's been doing virtual lessons. So I asked him, hey, can you do up 8 weeks worth of lessons? So we're in week 6 now. We're at the point where we have enough mechanics to put together a song. Apparently, that's what he believes. And so in the last episode, he's talked us through a couple songs, both with just 2 chords. One of them, the Beatles' Paperback Writer, is actually 1 chord with 1 part where there's actually a 2nd chord, but for the most part, the song is 1 chord. Just
wow.
So yeah, he's, for anybody that's listening, wants to follow along, just wants to get started on guitar, enough to at least pick out a few chords and then go find some more lessons from there. You can subscribe to the YouTube channel, and you can get more with your guitars. But the other thing right beside that, what you can't see in the shot, is actually an electric guitar that I also bought that I don't know how to play, obviously, but yeah.
I learned drums at age 34. You're never too old to learn. And I try to explain to people, like, playing music, like when you listen to music and you love it, it feels good, right? And then if you sing along, that feels even better. When you can play the song yourself and sing along, if you're a person so there's like, I guess some people's brains work like that, mine does, and others don't. There's like a thing or whatever. But if you can play a song, it feels amazing. It's like the best experience of a song is to play it yourself. It feels so good.
Okay. Yeah, being able to create things probably brings you back to coding, in that you can take something that doesn't exist and all of a sudden it does exist because it was in your head, and you have some sort of facility to create that in front of you.
Coding's amazing. It's so creative. There are very, very many musicians who are also coders. Like if you go see local bands around town, a very significant number of them are actually working in IT, usually writing code. It's funny.
Yeah, that's cool. You know what? I guess at our company, there have been instances where we have our annual kickoffs and the band was employees. And I just watched another guy who has a YouTube. We have our corporate channel. Well, we have a corporate channel, and then we have something called Dev Central, which is more of a community for doing customizations on the F5 products. And so that community has a YouTube channel, and they just had a couple of product managers on, and the one guy had a guitar at home and a bunch of guitars that were strung up behind him. And then they had this scene where they had side by side. Obviously, they're not in the same place, and he's giving the guitar to the other person. So he's moving the guitar across the screen, and then the other guy's receiving a guitar. But they were different guitars, obviously, but they coordinated it pretty well there. But they both.
That is awesome. That's fun.
Yeah, totally. So we could do something like that, like a virtual high five over here.
Yeah. Wait. I got it. Yeah.
Oh, cool. So you went to school, got a degree in comp sci.
Yeah, a diploma, and then I started working in the field and did programming a lot. And then in my 20s, I got a job doing anti-terrorism activities and like doing security activities for the first time, and I hated it. I had nightmares about the scary things, because terrorism is terrifying, and that is its purpose, right? And so I was like, no, I'm afraid of security. So then years later, I did more security stuff again, and I was like, I don't know. And then years later, I met a hacker, and he was in a band, and I was, of course, in a band, and our bands played together, and we became friends. And he said, "You'd be such a good hacker. You'd be so good. You don't even get it. You'd be so good. You're wasting your time being a programmer. Anyone can program." And so then after like a year and a half of him being like, "What if you read this book? What if you did this?" He's like, "I want you to be my apprentice, and I want you to come to the dark side." And I was like, "Okay, let's do it." and then,
Wow.
And then I ended up finding more professional mentors, and like he opened a lot of doors for me. Same with the next one. Like I found having professional mentors and people guide me really helped. And I joined the OWASP community. So I was living in Ottawa then. Now I live in Victoria, so still in Canada, but 5,000 kilometers away. And the OWASP community in Ottawa is like, wow. And you know, the other leaders were super supportive and like teaching me things and helping me and introducing me, and just wonderful. All the people there, I miss them.
Okay. Yeah, I know the OWASP community here maybe 10 years ago had a bit of a start and a pause, but I think it's going again. Are you involved in it?
In Vancouver?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I helped set them up to get them kind of started again. I've introduced them to some speakers. I spoke for them once. The guys that run the Vancouver chapter, they're really, really great. And they're so passionate about sharing information and helping, which is the perfect type of like person to be the leader of an OWASP chapter. Yeah, and they're also both really, really knowledgeable. So that's helpful. Sometimes I lean on them for things. It's great. And we are just opening a chapter here in Victoria.
Cool.
Yeah, it's funny. So I filed paperwork to start a chapter, and 2 other people filed paperwork like a few days before me. And OWASP is like, "What's happening right now?" And so then we met, and we're instantly friends, and we're like, "Yay!"
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, so we actually were supposed to have our first meeting during the pandemic, but then obviously no. But now Victoria is opening up again. So we haven't had any cases in over 3 weeks, I think, at this point. So we're starting to open up, but we're going to wait a bit, until everything looks very, very safe.
Yeah, fair enough. Are you looking at any virtual meetings then, or you're just going to hold off so you can kick off physically?
So I'm not sure if I'm supposed to say it, but we're working with the Vancouver chapter to do something virtual. Yeah. We've actually had speakers and all sorts of things planned, and it's like, well, why don't we just do them anyway online? Like I also run the WOSEC chapter, the Women of Security chapter here, and my co-leader Vane and we've been doing at least once a month activities online. So usually we brunch in person. So I'm like, let's brunch not in person. And so we all like have snacks and chat and just like hang out online on Zoom. And it's actually really nice because we miss each other after a month. And then we've been having like, so WOSEC is like OWASP, there's like an international thing. So we've been having like big international open to everyone types of activities. I mean, if someone wants to join the Victoria Brunch and Bitch, they could, but it's like a stitch and bitch, but you don't have to make anything. And there's food.
You bring your own food.
Yeah, it's true. You do have to bring your own food.
Yeah, that's cool though. Awesome. So after your work there, you eventually went to Microsoft?
Yeah. So while I was working for the Canadian Public Service, I started giving talks, and I started giving more talks, and then I started going to other countries and giving talks there. And then my friend interviewed at Microsoft for a developer advocate position, and apparently in his interview said, "Oh gosh, you don't want me, you want Tanya Janca." And they're like, "Who's that?" And talk about like best bud ever, right?
Wow.
And so he ended up taking a different position, and basically Microsoft reached out to me and, you know, invited me down to Seattle. And then of course, like so smart, had people that I follow on Twitter and totally admire interview me.
Oh, really? Cool.
Yeah. So Jesse Frizzell interviewed me and Ashley McNamara, and I'm like, and they're like, baby, you should come work here. Like, we think you'd be really good. It's like, very, very smart recruiting tactic there.
That's really cool. And you know what? I mean, you're probably in that position now where people meet you. You have a great following, and at this point, like, there's probably people that run into you that are like, "Oh, cool! You get to meet Tanya in person."
Yeah, yeah. The woman that I run the WOSEC chapter with, she said every time she goes to like conferences and other places, people are like, "You just get to be besties with her." She's like, "Dude, she's my friend." And I'm like, that's so weird. I don't know how to react to that, but awesome.
That's cool. And I've always appreciated the talks that I've seen. Your speaking style is really authentic. Like, it comes from a place of, I lived through a bunch of this stuff and I'm seeing this stuff happening. So listen to me and listen to the things, and hopefully we can work through an issue.
Yeah. Yeah. I've had a lot of people comment that my stories really help. So I'll say a technical thing, but then I'm like, here's why. And then it's like, this one time I was managing an incident and this happened and that happened. And if we had done the best practice that I'm presenting here, then I wouldn't have so much gray hair. I joke that I have like a patch of gray called Java struts.
That's a good call. Oh, you were, yeah. Were you working in public service during struts?
Yes, I was. That's all I'm allowed to say.
Yeah, fair enough.
So much stress.
Yeah, I get to see. I mean, I get to see it from my side. Customers dealing with it. We had a solution for it, but at the same time, and just like COVID as well, you see your clients going through all of these struggles, and you're like, man, you know, you do what you can to help and you jump in where you can, but you could see how stressful that is for folks fighting on the front lines.
Oh yeah, I have a lot of respect for incident responders, especially ones that are dealing with like a super mixed tech stack or really like a lot of legacy or places that aren't prepared.
Mm-hmm.
I've been called in at places where, yeah, actually I shared a story on Twitter the other day, which I'm going to share with you, but basically I started working somewhere and I reported 6 incidents in like the first couple days. And my boss was like, stop that. And then eventually I'd reported 27 incidents, and I only worked there like 6 months. And she's like, we never had any incidents before you. You've been on fire for years. I was like, I am not causing this. This was already happening. Like and I was just like, I don't know if I fit in here.
Everything was totally fine when they had the earmuffs on.
Yes, everything was fine when they were like this.
Oh, that's awesome. And I also find when you speak, you have great memes. Like the first talk that I saw you do, and one of the first slides that you had up was the rainbow unicorn, I think pooping out SecOps or something like that.
Yeah, the magical DevOps unicorn pooping rainbows, and then the security person cleaning it up. Yeah, this guy Pete Sheshlock made that.
Okay.
And so then my other friend, Francois Renaud, who is like the founder of the DevSecOn conference, he made like a counter slide where, so I have that slide too. And then there's these rainbow, beautiful, magical DevOps unicorns pooping the rainbow still. But the security person is like, here's an apple. Let me put that shoe on and help you. Oh, I'm going to teach you some lessons. Let's work together.
Oh, wow. Wow. That's taking it to the next level.
Yeah, pooping rainbows. Yeah, I've had people comment like, Tanya's talk, rainbow poop. I'm like, oh gosh, I hope that's not the only takeaway.
Sometimes I feel like, and I mean, I guess in things like Teams and in Slack, you can add Jiffy to it, and you can have some of those things immediately. But like, there's probably there should be a way to have some sort of library of like probably 25 or so off the top of my head. I'm like, a GIF would come in really handy right now, or in person, maybe even on your phone. You can automatically get Siri to pull up a GIF for you. And be like, hey, this is perfect for this conversation right now, not to electronics to physical conversation. But yeah.
Sometimes I make my own if I'm really excited, like of me freaking out or whatever the thing is, or me being like,
Yeah. Have any gone viral yet?
no, but I have been sharing. So I recorded, so I run a training company and we made our first training, and the video guy took out a bunch of stills of me where I like ones where I'm like, and then there's another one where I'm like, and so we've been releasing them on social media saying, caption this. So I am not coming up with nearly as good captions as my audience. They're the best.
Wow, I need to revisit. Well, in YouTube, you can always change the thumbnail. I need to revisit the thumbnail that we have for this and see if I can find a suitable one.
I should send you some silly ones.
I've got, and well, thumbnails are interesting. Like I try to illustrate what's happening. Oh, you can see the one below you there with Alex.
Yeah, he looks so awesome there. I feel like you could have fire behind him and it would look good.
Oh yeah, I can animate some fire. It looks very serious. It was not a serious chat, but he does look very serious on it. Hopefully people didn't expect serious Alex to show up today.
Serious Alex, I love it.
Yeah. So you spent some time at Microsoft, and you were in an advocate role.
Yeah, an advocate role is really interesting because you basically get to build lots of content about things you're already building lots of content about, and they give you free licenses to everything, which is pretty exciting if you like their stuff, which I do. And then you actually get to talk to the teams and work with the teams that built the cool stuff, and then help give them feedback from the community. So I worked a lot with the security center team in Israel. And I remember, the first time I flew into Israel, which was exciting for many reasons. And I met with them and I said, okay, so, like you did two new things, which were like application security related notifications on the dashboard. That's incredible. People are so excited. The security team previously would have to run a bunch of scans to get that information. And then you're just putting it up like, oh, these apps have cores set to star. These apps are allowing HTTP. These apps are, and they're like, oh, we just like threw that in there. We weren't sure if anyone would like it. I'm like, they love it. They love it. Can you put more? And they're like, yeah. and just like being able to give them feedback and then seeing them totally change it and like improve. So the community and the users liked it better and better and better is pretty cool role. Because I find, for instance, like when I worked in the government, you got to make a difference in the small thing that you did. But in a giant company like Microsoft that touches almost everyone on earth, if you think about it, being able to influence that, oh my gosh, so exciting.
Yeah. And that was a worldwide role then? Like you were?
Yeah, I was the international security advocate. Yeah, it's pretty awesome, right?
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, and I got to just learn so many cool bleeding edge things and like see things before they're released and help them and tell them like, oh, there's like 5 other products doing this, but there's no one doing quite like that. And, I'm seeing all these things and just being given the time to go research things that you really care about and like do write-ups or videos or whatever. And then a lot of flying on airplanes, But now with COVID, a lot of the advocates are doing like streaming and online stuff. And so it's probably better for the environment. Like it's super exciting to go to conferences, but it's also very expensive. And doing a virtual event is like, it's kind of free.
Yeah.
Like practically, like I've bought, equipment and stuff, but it's just, you also can reach more people and different people. So have you heard of, so in July, this woman named Kim Crawley from Canada is running a conference called DisInfoSec. And it is, DisInfoSec. And it's for disabled people. And so I'm actually dyslexic and technically learning disabled. And so I'm going to speak at the conference. And so everyone that's speaking at the conference is disabled. And all of our talks have to be super duper accessible. Do you want me to find you a link? Yeah, there you go. You already found it. You're awesome.
Cool.
And she wants to make, like, part of this is to raise money, but part of it is also is to make it visible that, like, when we do virtual things, for instance, adding closed captioning. So part of the OWASP DevSlot project is we have closed captioned a lot of our videos. And part of my training, we're adding closed captioning because some people are hard of hearing, or more likely, I have lots of people that want to learn and they're like, well, your course isn't available in Japanese. So we will watch it in English and we can read fluent English, but we can't hear and learn super abstract concepts in our second language where you're because I speak fluently, so I speak very, very quickly. Does that make sense? Like, I'm not trying to, I don't think about it. And so Disinfosec's trying to, like, bring accessibility to the forefront, and I love that idea. I think it's completely awesome. I also feel like it's awesome to show people, like, you can be disabled and still be, like, ridiculously, awesomely successful, intelligent, helpful, like, all the things. Like, you're not that one thing, you're so many things. And so part of the other thing with this is that people who are not fully abled can then attend all these virtual events. So I have so many people that are, like, for instance, in a country where the cost of a plane ticket or the cost of getting into a conference is completely impossible, or they live in rural areas, or they're like, I have 3 small children. Like, there's no way I could take off a few days and go somewhere. Like, that's just not possible. Yeah. And so bringing this virtual thing means, like, everyone's included, and it also is kind of an equalizer. So for instance, if you have a limp or something, some people judge people. And if you're sitting and you're at a thing, no one can tell. Mm-hmm. And also there's, like, a lot of people, specifically generations younger than me, who are now having, like, super, super serious allergies or that are immune compromised for other reasons. And so going to a conference is actually super unsafe for them. Like, going to a big gathering, like I went to one and one of the speakers had this very serious allergy to nuts. And then they served cookies with nuts and she just flew out of the building because, like, she's like, it could become airborne. Like, I could die. Like, I told them I was allergic to nuts. Why are they serving things with nuts? And I just felt so much empathy for her. And so all these virtual things, 100% safe. Yeah, Kim's awesome.
Even anxiety, social anxiety, I can imagine. Yes. You can get those people out. They're probably a lot more comfortable in front of a keyboard.
Yeah. I'm really liking how the virtualization of things is a bit of an equalizer for some. I realize that people that don't have internet, for them, it's really problematic. But people that don't have internet probably also can't afford a plane ticket and a week off work to go to a conference. And so, unfortunately, it's not equalizing for them. However, it's not making it worse for them, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm really hoping in the future that big conferences do a virtual and in-person thing, because, like, quite frankly, sometimes I can't go to things, or there's a conference and there's one talk I want to see so badly, and it's like, I'm not buying a plane ticket to go there, but gosh, I would totally pay like $10 to come see that talk. Like, no problem. Yeah. So I'm hoping that this opens up, because I remember previously, so I've spoken at a lot of conferences at this point, and I would say 2/3 don't even record my talk.
Really?
And, yeah. And so Microsoft, when I worked there, they're like, you know what, if they're not recording it, maybe we won't go, because it's so expensive to fly somewhere. And then what if you only have, like, I spoke also some conferences, like, they're hoping to attract thousands of people, and then 106 people show up. And then there's 3 tracks. And so then maybe I have 60 people in the room, and I could hold a meetup in Victoria and have 60 people in the room. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And so it's like, if you're trying to make the biggest difference you can, it's like, maybe I should have taken that time and written like 7 blog posts to like teach people new stuff, or I should have done, 3 online interactions. And like, we started looking at like the math on things and like how you can scale and like make the most positive impact. And then after them continuing to say I needed to scale and I needed to scale and go bigger and bigger, then I decided I would write a book. So I'm writing a book and it's going to be out later this year. It's called Alice and Bob Learn Application Security.
Cool.
And it's a textbook written in casual language with stories. Alice and Bob are characters, and they have health conditions and jobs and different experiences. But then I was like, oh, I want to scale more. And they're like, how? I'm like, I'm going to start my own company. And they're like, wait, no. And they're actually super supportive of me leaving and starting my own company. They're ridiculously wonderful. Like, lots of them met with me and like retweeted me, and they're really, really great about it. But they're like, oh crap, she learned the scaling lesson too well.
It is funny because I was going to ask, it sounded like you had a dream job and you left it all to go to something that had zero guarantee of income. Obviously, with you, there's guarantee of income, but potentially zero guarantee of income.
Yeah, starting your own company is kind of scary, but we actually became profitable in week 2. So that's pretty good. And then I started bringing people on, I think after maybe 2 months. And I have 1 full-time employee and 2 part-time employees now. And we are bringing on another professor, and we're bringing on 2 new coaches. And yeah, certain parts of the business, so we're trying a bunch of things, and certain parts are just like to the moon. And then other parts are kind of like this, and we're like, okay, how can we go like that? And then some parts were just like, so for instance, consulting always sells. And that's great funder for other things. Creating courses, it turns out creating the first course is expensive, but then after that, it's actually pretty cheap to build content. So like once you get the lights and the camera and all of that, it's like, oh, actually I can just produce content constantly now, and it's actually almost free. That's awesome.
Right.
And so, yeah, it's really exciting. We released our first course, and the feedback has been, it's awesome.
Let's pull that up here. That's just on your website.
Awesome. So it's called Application Security 101. So if you go to courses, and then it should be, so you can, I think you can click on buy the course. Okay. I don't think we want to buy it now. Yeah, there we go. And so then if you scroll down, there's a video about what to expect about it, the prerequisites, and then there's also like all of the different files and content and topics that we cover so that people know all the things that we're covering. Wow. So people have told me I shouldn't call it 101. They're like, you basically taught all of AppSec. Why did you name it 101? Like, I don't know what else is in your brain that this is 101. And so that has been the main feedback. Like, Tanya, this is a lot. My brain hurts.
I only scrolled halfway down.
Yeah. Like there's like a lot of, because I want it. Wow. Yeah, so after people take this course, then I want them to take more hands-on courses. So for instance, like I talk about dynamic application security testing. So I'm currently making agreements with lots of different product companies so that I can give licenses to my students and create hands-on exercises for them to do. And same with SAST, IAST, RASP, etc. I want them to have tried a bunch of tools that are enterprise level, like things that you would actually use at work. So not, some open source tools are awesome and can be used at work, like OWASP Zap. It is always in my toolbox. It's awesome. I don't care if it's free or open source, it's an amazing tool. So I want it. But there are lots of open source tools where I'm like, I don't have time for this. And it's not great. And it's not the type of thing that you could use in an enterprise with that level of volume and level of support required. And so, yeah, hands-on is coming really soon, and I'm super excited. And I love the idea of being able to like give people access to things. So that means me reading a lot of contracts. Seriously, I like set time aside, and then I'm like, I get to eat ice cream after I read contracts.
Yeah. Now we got some feedback here from Kyle McKay, one of my colleagues in Calgary. I haven't finished the course yet, but super good value for what's contained in Tanya.
Thank you, Kyle. That's so awesome. Yes.
Very cool. And I mean, I know on the, oh, another one from Kyle here, love Zap, who needs burp.
Yes. I love Zap. Zap's great.
Very cool. If you need anything from the F5 side, let me know. WAF stuff.
Oh, actually, I will. Yeah, I'd love to talk to you. I want people to know like the popular tools because that's what they're going to see at work. Imagine if you could hire someone and they already had some formal training on all of your tool set that you use at work.
Oh yeah, especially, so this is, and my customers know this, so I'm not, this isn't a big secret, but with F5, people can buy the proxy and it's loaded on with software modules on there, and the web application firewall is on there, and it's on, in British Columbia, it's on a lot of people's F5s, but the actual skill set and understanding of how to operate it isn't quite there. I have a handful of customers who do know how to use it really well, and some who can turn on a couple things on there, but I would love, and it takes some application understanding, and so usually an F5 administrator is usually a network person.
Yeah.
Their security, their idea of the security product is their firewall. But you know, they need to be able to marry the other side. So something like your course would be awesome for them, I would say.
Yeah, I have, so I used to be a web app pen tester, and I remember one of my clients, I was telling them, so you've paid for your WAF, what if we turn it on? It doesn't need to be like, we'll put it on alerting for, and I explained like all of the stuff. And so then we turned it on and I'm like, is it okay if we test it? So I'm gonna attack you a bit, right? And we had to spend so much time tuning it because I was just getting past it. I was like, whoop, 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 whoop. And they're just like, but and it was really, really easy. I'm like, I want it to be kind of hard, okay? Like, it doesn't need to be perfect. It doesn't need to be like super, super tight. We don't want to block anything legit. But yeah, that was a learning experience that you could turn on a tool. It wasn't F5 and turn it on and blocking. And then I'm just like, whoop, 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 whoop. I was just like, oh, okay. So there's some work here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So definitely, I want to see us as an industry doing a better job. And I feel that that means knowledge sharing. And I remember I worked somewhere and we bought a SIM and they wanted $30,000 to send someone to train us. And I was like, I don't have any budget left. I spent all my money on the SIM.
Yeah.
And it was kind of heartbreaking, if that makes sense. So my staff just like fiddled around with it. We spent so many hours trying to learn that thing, and that's wasted money because salary dollars count. And if we could take a course for like $99 on the internet, you're like, get out of, all of you sit down, go take that course, tell me when you're done, right? Like, it's just, to me, it's, even if it's just all the basics, just having all the basics is just, it's so magical. And yeah, I don't know about you, but I remember the first time that I turned on a security tool, just like looking at it for an hour and being like, but how do I turn it on? Yeah. And I'm just like, I'm looking on the internet, I'm trying to find and I'm just like, and so I want it to be like, okay, so I know what to do for this and this and this. I understand when I want to use this tool and why and what I'm trying to get from this tool and like strategies. And then I'm a jerk as a professor, so I always plan problems in my courses. So there always has to be some troubleshooting because I hate taking those courses where they're like, copy and paste this into here. Oh, now you know SQL injection. I'm like, no, now I know how to copy and paste.
Right.
So like I'll make people make the command, or so I have like a GitHub Actions course, and then in it, we're using the wrong version of .NET to build the app. And I'm like, oh, it's not working. Why isn't it working? And they're like, why? I'm like, I guess you have to do troubleshooting. And they're like, what? But it's good because when you go back to your office, it is not going to be perfect. It is not. And if you don't understand where to look for the answers, then how have I helped you, right? like, I can't answer every single thing that will happen at work, but if I can teach you where to find the answers, how to troubleshoot, like how to kind of problem solve, if that makes sense, then I feel I'm doing a better job as a teacher.
It makes total sense. I mean, for this course too, I love that this course is so accessible at $99 for all of that content. This is amazing. Everyone should buy it. Buy it now. There's a
Thank you.
put a link somewhere in here.
Yeah, we're hoping. So, I mean, I have like a marketing person and they're like, can we just put a 0 on the end? I'm like, no. She's like, but it would sell if it still had a 0. I'm like, well, I'm hoping instead we'll put like a 0 on the end of how many people bought it. And then that will even the numbers out so that we can continue to just make lots of content. We're also making some sponsored content that we're just going to make free.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're working with different vendors and it's like, if you'll pay for me to make the training, we'll release it free on the site to anyone. And they're like, oh, well, this is appealing. I'm like, yeah. And then again, all my customers win, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I'm trying like, basically I'm like, we're flexible. I want to pay my mortgage. Yeah. So that's what you get when you have startup founders.
Yeah.
We're like awesome at tech and not great at business.
Negotiating my mortgage payment. All right, I got July paid off with this year. I got August paid off. Just here's the wire transfer to just throw it into the bank.
Yeah, exactly.
A question here from Satyajit. Hi team, I have 12 years experience in AppSec security testing. Want to move to DevSecOps. How do I begin?
Oh, awesome. Have you read the DevOps handbook? I'm asking him because that is where I would start. The DevOps handbook, that's such a great book. And then the Phoenix Project, the Unicorn Project, and Accelerate. I have a blog post about this actually, which I can share after, where I review the books, but it could also be saying that I fangirl for the whole, it's a book review / I'm fangirling for the whole blog post. But basically, they explain what DevOps is. And in the DevOps handbook, they have a lot of security things. They're currently working on the DevSecOps handbook, which is incredible. I'm so excited for that. There's also a bunch of people you can follow, like James Wickett, Gene Kim, Nicole Fergrenson, I'm saying that wrong, Jez Humble. I could, if you want, after I could like make a list of kick-ass people. Imran Mohammed, so he is a friend of mine and he runs a school that's similar to my school called Practical DevSecOps. Yeah, James is awesome. He has a bunch of talks and blog posts. He puts out great content. He has some courses on lynda.com, really good. Oh, actually, Shannon Leeds, she's amazing. Her handle is DevSecOps. Yeah, so she's pretty amazing. But basically, like, follow a lot of those people, read those books, and know that DevSecOps is basically application security woven through the DevOps processes. So we don't put everything in a pipeline. We put the fast, really important things in the release pipeline, or you can make a separate second pipeline with all the slow stuff that does not block release. Like I actually have several talks on this and like a proof of concept project that I made with, actually, you should follow, I'm silly, I forget, you should follow my open source project, the OWASP DevSlop project, like sloppy DevOps, DevSlop. My friends Nancy, Nikki, Franziska, and I. So Franziska has made 4 different pipeline proof of concepts where she auto-tunes a WAF in it, which is really cool. I made one where I put 7 different security tools in it and just like to show you how fast you could make it go. We have a show that's very similar to this show, except for we actually like do a lot of hands-on coding and stuff in the show. So we just nerd out. We have different DevOps and cloud security people come on and just show us cool bleeding edge security stuff. It's really cool. And yeah, we're our best nerd selves. Because it turns out like anyone can make a show, right?
I've proven that.
I don't know, like we've got great sound, we've got like great video, like you're doing a good job.
This framing that you see here took about 3 YouTube videos worth of learning on my side of how to operate a Photoshop crash course. And then all the other things that you see around, all the videos that I edit, when people have asked me, how did you learn how to do that? YouTube everything. How do I cut and paste video clips all on YouTube?
Yeah, I was thinking of releasing a blog post saying like, this is my tech setup, because I posted a photo of me in front of my desk and people melted down. They're like, I want that keyboard. So like I have an ergonomic keyboard, so your hands are kind of like this and your hands are spaced apart because it's better for your shoulders and your neck. And then I have a beautiful Yeti mic in between the parts of the keyboard, so you get the best sound. And yeah, so I'm like, oh, maybe we should just like tech, like swim. Like I'm like, I wonder if people, like, it's kind of off topic, but maybe people would like it. I don't know.
It's hilarious. Those videos attract a ton of people. Like there's YouTubers that my kids will follow, and they'll do some sort of behind the scenes, here's what the setup looks like, and those get tons and tons of views. What I tell a lot of folks is when it comes to this stuff, the gear is great, but focus on at least getting content out there and being consistent with it, so that people can know to expect you, and then just kind of iterate on top of that. But the gear is really fun. I'll admit, like I've spent way too much money on all the stuff around me here.
I feel too like a thing that a lot of people need to know is we absolutely need to hear you clearly and shine a light on your face. Like so many people, they're all dark and shadowed, and they look sort of like, you know, when you're a kid and you would put like a flashlight under your face at night and tell ghost stories. Like they look like that. And I remember one of like the videos I did with a more professional podcast, they're like, you look really washed out. I'm like, I'm Eastern European. I am really washed out. They're like, you look really pale. I'm like, dude, I am like the palest, whitest person ever. Like I actually do go in the sun, and this is what I look like. You should see me in winter. And they're just like, you need some lighting. So now I have some color. I'm not literally a piece of paper. I'm like, yes.
So we can touch on that too. So you moved out to Victoria, like the opposite, almost opposite end of Canada.
Yeah.
Anything in particular that brought you out besides the tropical weather?
So I used to have to live in Ottawa because I was part of the public service, and that is where the jobs are for that. And my parents lived there. So my parents moved, and they moved, you know, like 2 hours away. It's not that far, but it was like a trip to go see them. And so I was like, well, 5-hour flight, 2-hour drive. And so I have like cousins and aunts and uncles that live here. And also I basically, when I started traveling around, I knew that I wasn't super in love with Ottawa. The coldness is really hard for me, and the darkness is really, really hard for me. So a lot of humans have seasonal affectiveness disorder, so I have that. So every winter, I'm just taking all the vitamin D by a handful, shining the bright lights on myself, doing all the things so that I can feel normal. And I'm just like, what if I lived at a place where I didn't have to do all that? What if I just lived at a place where my body liked it? And so when I was traveling to all the different places around the world, I was like secretly evaluating where I would live. And my cousin that lives in Victoria was like, Victoria, Victoria, Victoria. And so she just kept inviting me to come visit her. And after 3 visits, I was like, I'm just gonna move. I'm just gonna live here. I love it. The people are so friendly. The weather is outstanding, beautiful, gorgeous. Also just, so I'm very left wing. And for Canada, this is like the most lefty place you could be. So like everyone just agrees with my wild ideas. And everyone wants to go on a hike with you, literally. Like even if it's raining, they're like, this isn't rain, it's not pouring. Like, let's go outside. And so, yeah, it's pretty awesome. And I managed to find a place. I'm near farmland, and I've started my own little hobby farm. And it's just, it's paradise.
It is, yeah, it's a piece of paradise over there. would dream for maybe one day, looking at that scenario.
It's also the biggest, so we call it Tech Island, and we have a startup accelerator, and tech is actually our #1 industry on the island. So they have a huge, vibrant community. I was so surprised when I got here because the Women Code Club in Ottawa has 1,000 people in it, and our meetups are usually like 6 women, 8 women. And here, we're 1/3 the size, and we have over 1,000 women super active in the Slack. Like, we'll have meetups and we're like, sorry, 100 women are coming, so like we can't have any more. And they actually like have studies done on our community to improve it. So they actually had someone like do their master's on how to improve our tech community. And then we also have a Slack where every single person in tech on the whole island is in it. So we can all just talk to each other whenever we want. Wow. So if I'm like, I need help with this, like just a zillion people coming to help me. And we have like a bunch of security Slacks, and like, they're just like, the communication is so good. And so if I say like, hey, does anyone want to go for a beer with me downtown? People are like, where, what time? Yeah.
Here too.
Yeah, it's really amazing. The community here is very close-knit, very passionate. It's quite lovely.
Good microbrews and good coffee shops.
Yes, apparently we are so I actually like don't drink beer that often because I am not really good with the digestion of gluten. Like, I might like it, but it does not like me, which is such a bad deal. Yeah. But we also have some wineries that are quite nice as well, and like just farmland. It's very, very beautiful here. I'm like, as if I'm allowed to just move here.
I've got one more question. It was a follow-on question here. How about practical hands-on experience?
Okay, so a bunch of ways you could get hands-on experience. So one would be to join an open source project that is doing DevOps and offer to be their AppSec volunteer. That would be great. A lot of open source projects would like to have more contributions, so that would be great. If you work at a place where they are doing DevOps, go meet that team and become their new best friend. I personally started learning about it so I'm like, I don't know how to explain it, but like, I just started live streaming myself, building my own pipeline. And I just failed publicly because, I don't know, troubleshooting is a thing, right? Like, that is a learning lesson for everyone. And that's why I started the OWASP DevSlot project. It was like, I want to know how I can do this and I want hands-on experience. So my friend Nikki made this cool like microservices app that's super insecure. And then I made this pipeline and we just started building things together. And then before I knew it, at work, they're like, hey, can you advise on this? I'm like, yeah, I did a thing. I built this. Or, oh, I will build it. And then I'll build this proof of concept and show you. And they're like, yeah. And so building things is a great way. When you do it as part of an open source project, then you can share the knowledge. I understand not everyone is all people are like, you're so fearless. I'm like, I think I'm oblivious. But anyway, I just like to be a nerd. And also when you live stream, you have all these awesome helpers. So all these people come and help you. It's awesome. I don't get that at work. I don't get to have 17 people come and give me ideas. Yeah. Usually just 1 or 2, right? So I would suggest that. I would suggest befriending the DevOps team where you work. If you don't work at a place where they're doing DevOps, if you're allowed, so depending upon where you work, you're allowed to have a second job, and depends on what your life is like. But when I worked at the public service, I got written permission to consult to other government agencies because they had no AppSec person. And so I was like, can I do pen tests sometimes for other groups? And like, I charged less because I was more junior than some of the other people. And so I would go across the street in the evening and like pen test another department's web app, or like advise them on this or help them design that. But I got permission. I was super transparent about it. And so if your employer is cool with that, I find consulting is a really great way to get experience. And I know you might be thinking like, how do you get it? Like, you need to be experienced before you consult. But if they're looking for someone and you're willing to charge a really low number at first, eventually you can charge a much nicer number. And so if you're willing to like work for less for a bit to get that experience, it is really awesome being a consultant versus an employee, because you just come in and do this one laser focused thing. And so if you're picking a thing that you're really excited about, that's awesome. So that's how I got like a lot of my pen testing experience was, you know, as an employee, I'd have to do all this employee stuff and all this other thing and get permissions and write change request forms and all this. But as a consultant, I'd come in and just like, and you know, they wanted to use your time super wisely because you're charging a lot of money. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to come in for like 2 hours. In the first hour, we're going to whiteboard your app. In the second hour, we're going to write out all the threats and we are going to make a mitigation plan. And I'm going to come back in a week and I expect this and this and this from you. And they're like, yes, ma'am. I'm like, I can't believe they went for that.
Oh, that's so awesome. Thanks for answering that. We've actually hit the hour. This went way faster than I thought it would.
I know. Thank you for having me. This was really fun. And it was so nice to meet you, like face to face.
Yeah, oh, totally. Yeah, I've been following you on Twitter, and anytime I see you on the B-Sides cards, I always enjoy checking that out. And I know when I let some of my colleagues know that you're coming on this, they were really excited as well. So
Thank
awesome
you.
to be able to have you on, and I'm sure we'll get to see you at upcoming B-Sides.
Oh yeah.
Hopefully.
I also want to talk to you about some F5 stuff later.
Yes, that'll be a great conversation to have. So folks who haven't gotten to know you yet, how can they get a hold of you?
So you can go to SheHacksPurple.dev. That's my website and my school. You can also, basically, if you look up SheHacksPurple, that's me. So I have a YouTube channel, a Twitch channel, even have a Mixer channel. I have a blog on Medium, a blog on dev.to. I have a mailing list, I call it my Nerdalicious mailing list, where I just send you a huge list of free content whenever I feel like it. Yeah, so just look up SheHacksPurple and you'll find me. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. People, press the subscribe button.
Yes, press the subscribe button for this and head over to SheHacksPurple. Even though Tanya doesn't even realize she has subscribers, you can head over to her channel and add to the thousands that she's building, even though I'm working my butt trying to get 3.
Who knew?
Very cool. All right, thanks a lot, Tanya.
Thank you. See you next time.